So we're joined by Riham Ahmed Ezzat, who is the author of the paper Do Reform Sequences Matter for Telecom Sector Performance, particularly in the MENA district, Middle East and North Africa. So tell me about why you wrote this paper and what you were trying to achieve when you set out to write it.
In fact, in this paper, it's co-authored with Carlo Cambini and Carine Staropoli. We deal with the effect of the regulatory reform sequences in MENA countries. The regulatory reforms mainly are in terms of liberalization, privatization, and whether re-regulating the sector by the establishment of an independent regulator. And we want to test the effect of such sequences on the sector performance while taking into account the specificities of MENA countries, whether in terms of institutional, political determinants.
And what do these countries have in common that means that you can write about them all in one paper in such a way?
For MENA countries specifically? MENA countries are specific in terms of institutional and political characteristics, although they are heterogeneous in terms of income, of growth, of population, also in terms of reforms adoption. However, when we look at MENA countries as a group of developing countries and when we compare it to other group of developing countries, we can find that in the telecommunication sector, they lagged in adopting reform. They start adopting their sector, reforming their sector since 1995. Which is not the case for the other group of developing countries. For instance, for Latin American countries, they started in the 1980s. So it's interesting to test the effect of reform sequences in MENA countries as an under-researched area, and while taking into account the institutional specificities that tend to be overlooked in other studies.
And you talk about a regulatory culture that makes it very difficult for new entrants to join the market. Why is that?
The regulator in place. In fact, what we find concerning the regulation that having a regulator in place is important, specifically under other types of reform. However, its role needs to be more efficient. So it's unnecessary, but it's not sufficient since we do not guarantee the efficiency of the regulator. So policymakers have to set the rules to guarantee that it would be efficient in the market, to set the rule for the entry of new competitors and new operators.
And you talk about filling up a gap in the literature. What kind of things would you like to see researched next in this field?
In fact, in this field, in the regulation of infrastructures, concerning the negative effect we found in the fixed sector, maybe it would be interesting to test the fixed to mobile substitution in MENA countries. So whether that would have implication in terms of the regulatory obligation and the antitrust authorities or not, depending on the results we got.
Okay, Riham, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.